Hello, good morning. This is Arshinder. Am I audible?
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. Dear participants, once again, welcome for the 5 days faculty development program on technology disruptions in management, sponsored by AICT Training and Learning Academy, ATAL. On behalf of College of Management, I welcome our presenter today, Dr. Arshinder Kaur. I'm happy to introduce her. Arshinder Kaur is a professor of operations from IIT Madras. She is graduated in PhD in supply chain management from IIT Delhi, and she is also an adjunct research fellow at School of Information Systems, Curtin Business School, Australia. Her research interests include supply chain coordination, closed-loop supply chain, inventory control, service management, and strategic sourcing. Her research has appeared in various refereed journals, more than 40 articles, such as Omega, International Journal of Production Economics, Computer and Industrial Engineering, Journal of Cleaner Production, Benchmarking and International Journal, Journal of Knowledge Management, and International Journal of Logistic Research and Application, among others. Her doctoral work, PhD thesis on the topic supply chain coordination, has been accepted as a highly commended award winner of the 2008 Emerald EFMD Outstanding Doctoral Research Award. She is a reviewer of many reputed international journals like European Journal of Operational Research, International Journal of Production Research, Production Planning and Control, and Applied Mathematical Modeling. She has been visiting University of Passau and of University, Germany as guest faculty. She has got honorary appointment as key technology partner, visiting fellow at University of Technology, Sydney in UTS Business School, Australia in May 2017. Ma'am, we are happy to have you here, and the session is yours now.
Thank you very much. And it's really pleasure to be with all of you. A very good morning to all of you. And I hope, we have in the audience, we have mix of faculty, right? Respected faculty from other colleges and some doctoral students, I hope some research scholars, right?
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. 90% faculty members and maybe 10% research scholars.
Okay.
Across India.
Okay, so this is very important, thank God we have some 10 research scholars, I hope, some youngsters, because, delivering lecture like disruptive technology, we really need, youngsters to be there in audience, to vouch for, like, they are, some of them are millennials, they can only vouch for, like, whether these technologies are really disruptive, right? And I hope faculty at my age, we would also see, we would appreciate, we are a little slow on adopting, but we are looking forward to adopt, right, such technology. Right? Thank you very much for your invitation, Kavita madam, and we would start now. So how much time I have? So 1 hour, 1.5 hours?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Let me share my screen.
We can have interaction after, say, 12:30, ma'am.
Okay.
12:30, 12:40.
Sure, sure. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you. Right. So, so the topic which is like, we are going to discuss today, it looks like, this, the moment we say technologies, any technologies, either digital or engineering or hardware technologies, it is like, when we apply, it definitely ease out the operations. But once it, when it comes to teaching such topics and, taking lectures, it is equally challenging, because technologies are something like, which if we see, how they work, right, then we can better connect with them, right? So I have tried to include some videos, which can help us in connecting, right, with real applications of, such technologies. Okay, so to start with, let me give a little overview of supply chain, So why it is important to give this perspective of supply chain, because we really want to appreciate, right, how this technologies, different technologies can be useful, what is their utility, at which function of supply chain, at which stage of supply chain, right? So first of all, we all know supply chain is nothing but, they are some, entities, they involve some entities which are adding value across the product or service, starting from, the raw material and then, production, right? I have written service provider because even service is a very important aspect of service supply chain, right? So, and then, distributor dealers or through retailers or through e-commerce, we as customer, we get all the products. Okay. So this is very important to capture this in form of flow of inventory and information, which drives the supply chain. When I say inventory, it can be any kind of resource, right? It can be goods, it can be services, right? And flow of money, returns, and information. So we must, we are right now in era where, all the major committees worldwide, like United Nations, or our sustainable development goals, which are focusing on now, more of sustainability. So without capturing returns, I would say that, the current supply chain definitions are incomplete. So this is, as the forward flow is important these days, the reverse flow is equally important, right? So this is how I would capture the supply chain definition. And now what is happening currently in supply chain? So though we have developed, we are evolving very fast in the supply chain. Why I'm saying evolving? Because supply chain concept actually, as compared to other uh, contemporary concepts like lean, six sigma, supply chain is like, relatively new as compared to those concepts, right? But though, it is evolving very fast, right? But still this has few challenges, in supply chain. When we say, if suppose there is an entity, they want to produce something, for production they are dependent on the raw materials like suppliers, right? And, the dealers, distributors, they are dependent on manufacturers. Okay. So what is happening, there has been noticed supply chain inefficiencies because the supply chain entities are working in silos, right? So the current issues in supply chains are, there's a lack of visibility, right? Because, supply chain lengths are long, right? A typical product like fruit and food which we eat, if you start tracing the supply chain, you will see that, it has been a longer supply chains, before we get our product. So the length, the complexity, the management of supply chain entities, how they manage each other, how um, they are dependent on each other, so these entities are working in silos. And that also, the one reason is lack of visibility, right? And each entity is, taking care of their own entity, rather than focusing on supply chain as a system as a whole, right? So that means there's a lack of supply chain coordination. And one reason why this lack is there, uh, because, obviously each entity is a business unit and they would like to see what is there for me, right? Lack of incentives. So if we will say that these are the cyclical, issues, right? Why they behave in a local optimized manner, right? Why there is like, lack of supply chain coordination, why they are working in silos. One is like, they don't know how to put an effort, to make supply chain visible, right? Another, there are no proper incentives, right, for the supply chain entities for putting all those efforts, right? A typical example is like, for example, manufacturer, if manufacturer wants to upgrade their system, right, to the advanced technology, right, it is not possible if their suppliers and the downstream members also cooperate. Okay, so if manufacturers say I want to go for cloud computing, right, or cloud manufacturing, right, this is not possible without the cooperation and help of suppliers, right? So this is just one example, where we see how these entities are dependent, and their coherent decision making is very, very important, right? So I'm trying to set the stage, so that we can understand, why we need technology, right? Why we need technology, and that too some disruptive technologies, as the session's theme is, right? Technologies have been there. We have enterprise resource planning, first MRP, ERPs, and SAP products. All are there. Technologies are there, but still, we have not been able to achieve that supply chain efficiency, supply chain performance. The other reason is, the way the customers, the stakeholders, the government, NGOs, and many bodies at international level, their expectations from the supply chain have been changing, right? So we have come out of that era, where we would be focusing only on the cost, on the efficiency, right? Reduce the cost, reduce the efficiency, reduce the lead time, right? So those performance measures are important. In fact, they have become now prerequisites, isn't it? Like, cost has to be minimized, right? Efficiency has to be maintained. But on top of that, what else, right? So with this, right? With this, we will start, what is the changing era of supply chain. And before we begin to introduce various technologies, I really want to tell everyone that it would be good if you interact with me and with each other, right? To know more, right? If you have any doubt, right, feel free to ask me. If I would have doubt, I would also ask all of you, right? So how you think, this technology would help, in what manner? So let's there be an interactive session. Otherwise, this 1.5 hour will be very, very difficult. And uh, yeah, I don't want everyone to sleep, right? So please be attentive and be interactive. And I can understand, from the audience, there would be some interest, to know what is the current status. There would be some expectation, like, how we can go way forward, what are the research opportunities. So please don't stick to only the matter which is given in the slides. I would keep on discussing, where are the research issues, where are the research challenges, and wherever, appropriate, wherever it will be appropriate, I will also share, what kind of research we are doing in our department with my research scholars. Very happy that, we have got a very good set of research scholars and some internship students, right, who are looking at, this supply chain problem. So wherever I will feel apt, I would share, what we are doing here in the what in various research areas, right? So supply chain has definitely evolved, right? Or sorry, you can also share a chat window. Yeah, let me put this chat on. So if you have any question, right, if you have any constructive question, I would say please type that in the chat window. Okay, so supply chain has been evolved, right, from the vertical integrated supply chain to digital supply chain, right? So what do we mean by vertical integrated? Vertical integrated is a concept, especially in the auto and supply chain sector. We can say, the the famous, T models by, Henry Ford were introduced, right? The typical black color vehicle, where uh, that time the aim was how we can bring efficiencies, right? The target was, just to focus on reducing the cost of manufacturing, assembling, and giving to the customer. So with the intention behind reducing the cost was like, because that time, the focus was not only on not on the customization. Like today, we want the car, like today, if we just see any color, we can actually expect, can I have, color matching with my shirt, a car of color matching with my shirt color, right? But in the past, the issue was like they were not able to give customization because their focus was only on the cost minimization. So for that, the effort was like to that extent that the even the iron ores, right? From the ores to extraction of material, then, all machining of materials, and then assembling of vehicle will be done under one umbrella of organization. So those kind of organizations, they were very successful in reducing the cost, but they couldn't, appeal to the customers because customers wanted variety. But that process, like, where all the events, all the processes and activities are, done by a single organization, that is called vertical integrated supply chain. So from there, we have moved now to digital supply chain. Now this is era of outsourcing. I should focus only on my core competency and then move everything out of my organization, but have a very good connect, right? Have a good, we have moved from vertical integration to virtual integration. Okay. So more and more data is there, more virtual integration, more data, and analyzing that data, in a manner which would give us competitive advantage, right? That is the main key in the supply chain, right? Is there any question? I can hear somebody's mic on. Okay. Okay, so using technology and digital transformation to make right decision, right? uh, right, and changing performance measures also, like, the as I've told you, even expectations are changing, from efficiency, flexibility to now we want to focus on visibility, right? Where my suppliers are located, from where my product is coming. As a customer, customers are also becoming aware of, like, knowing, what is the background of the product which I'm using, right? I don't want to know about the product only. I want to know the whole supply chain of product, right? To ensure that, the parts and components inside are reliable. The food which I'm eating is organic, right? Or, it is free from adulteration. So all those concepts are more important, right? Visibility, right? Sustainability, I am more focused on my economic aspect. Along with that, I am becoming environmental conscious. I don't want to, use any unethical practices. I want to achieve social sustainability. Whatever supply chain efforts I'm doing, it should be ethical. It should be, like, done keeping society at large in mind, and safety, comfort of all stakeholders, right? And, the third part, like, we have been focusing on risk management. So now, we want our supply chain not only learn how to manage risk, but how to become resilient, right? This pandemic has taught us, in a very, very hard way, that risk is something, which is not avoidable. We cannot avoid risk. Risk is inherent in any activity, right? In any business activity, and same is with the supply chain, right? But what we can do is how we can be resilient. That's why, we have moved, like, from the mere cost minimization, time aspects, to these three very important supply chain performance indicators: visibility, sustainability, and resilience. So when we say this thing, so this is only possible, if we have a good digital transformation happening in the supply chain. Okay, then only it is possible, to focus on this changing expectation of performance indicators, right? So there is a question on how virtual integration definition. So virtual integration is that, for example, we all know, like, Dell was, when Dell brought, the online buying of personal computers, it was a disruptive, this was a disruption, right? So mind it, this disruption is in positive manner, right? uh, right, I will mention you what do we mean by disruption, that this was a very innovative thinking of Dell when they started, to sell the products online, right? That gives, like, good customization to the customers, right? But to achieve customization is very difficult, right? Dell has to inform their suppliers to get parts and components, right, ready. So no doubt, customer is ready to wait, right? That because customer would get customized machine from Dell, but that time, Dell has to give some service level, right? Even though customer is ready to wait, but there should be some limit to that wait, right? So that way, to reduce the lead time, right? Dell would form very good partnerships with the worldwide best suppliers. That's where, they would integrate. So Dell has actually capitalized on internet those days, right? So this Dell was the best example who could capitalize on internet and IT, right? In those era, right? So they were very well connected with the suppliers. In fact, what Dell used to say that, every order, every demand which is realized at Dell, that becomes order to the Dell supplier. Means, like, the information sharing regarding the demand to Dell supplier was so fast in a very integrated manner over internet, using virtual integration. Okay. So this was the concept of virtual integration when you are connected with your vendors, like, to speed up your supply chains, and the quality also, right?
This, when you are talking about working in silos, supply chain, I don't think it is no more. People are now more and more using ERP. When we get into that, at least they do a value chain, if not a extended value chain. I think they know what is happening with their suppliers, whether they are able to supply, what is happening to the customer. I don't know. I think it is extended. I think the silos have gone. That's what I feel.
Right. So see, ERP, when we say ERP, within an organization definition, definitely silos have gone. But when we look at supply chain perspective, right? Yes, we do know that what my supplier is doing, right? What my buyer is doing. But again, bringing suppliers and buyers together towards common goal, common objective, is has always been a challenge.
That is right. Yeah, that's right.
So those silos means, like, they are aware of each other's working and activities because they have to. Otherwise, supply chain would not run. But convincing them, that you can just, like, upgrade your system to this one, right? That is more convenient. There you will see a lot of conflicting issues, right? They want to work on the things, which they feel, that is best for their companies, right? So those issues are still prevailing, right, in supply chains. We definitely need, some kind of smart supply chains, right? So why we need a kind of smart supply chains? Because supply chains are dynamic, right? Makes it impossible to gather real-time data simultaneously at multiple stages by human intervention, right? Because there are so many activities for any organization. They have to know the demand data so that they can forecast accurately, right? If that won't be correct, we cannot start up our production. If production won't be accurate, we cannot place our orders to suppliers on time, right? And even if we would be able to forecast accurately some kind of supply chain disruption, now it is in the negative sense, like COVID might happen, right? And it would change, again, the whole planning, So supply chain is dynamic, right? There is now, but now this inexpensive instrumentation, means of collecting and analyzing data are available now, right? It's very well, reported in one of the document that the cost of the cost of information technology or overall capturing of information, analyzing information, so the total cost has actually come down to more than 8,000 times, right, in past 30-35 years, right? It has reduced to 8,000 times. So I think this is the best time to capitalize on this fact, right? So that we can make this inexpensive instrumentation available. Intelligent decision making generated by machines are there, so value generation for customers, quick response and improved efficiency. So maybe we can make our supply chain smart, but it certainly needs, right, definitely from isolated local to the system-wide application, capturing the whole supply chain in mind, right? Processing as using various other technologies like IoT, right? Robotics, right? Intelligent infrastructure, fully enabling data collection and real-time communication across supply chain, right? So when we say smart, the ability of an object to recognize by itself the purpose to be achieved, right? And to understand and work well and to flexibly respond to any variability, right? There are some disruptive technologies, right? Which, so why it is disruptive, right? That definition may vary, right? But when we say supply chain, where a lot many activities and processes are concerned, I think we should focus on more on, the performance indicators, like, and focus on which process, which stage, it could bring, either innovation, right? Innovation, then it can be in terms of reducing cost, improving visibility, right? Achieving some environmental aspect. So we will see down the line, right? So I'm not sure if you have seen this video of Amazon Go, right? For so long, we have been seeing that, supply chains, right? The retail supply chains, typically they are now coming on e-commerce channels, right? But this era is like, everyone is trying, like, all kind of options, right? So we are more of an omni channels, right? When Dell actually came with like this online buying, like customized PC, nobody has thought about like even Dell can come to the physical retail mode, right? Similarly, like, when Amazon came with e-commerce channel, right? So nobody thought of, this, they can also plan to open up physical stores, but definitely with very good innovation, which is possible only with the help of disruptive technologies. Let's see this one.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual card and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
Right. So, so if you really see, there are some more videos. If you get time, you can see about Amazon Go, because they were focusing only on the shelf, But if you really see the ceiling of this kind of centers, you will find lot many sensors installed there. Okay, and to make this happen, right? So this is a very good innovation. What is there, in supply chain, there is always a debate, right? Whether we should focus on, customer experience, when customer would come, touch the product, can see the product, and then customer would buy, right? As against, like, customer is ordering, sitting in their home comfort, right? So this is always debatable, right? So the main issue for the customer definitely is, like, going, right, spending time to that distance, right? But second thing is, like, the SKUs, right? Even if we have introduced our cards tab, which reduces some time on the checkout counters, right? But still, like, there are always queues, right? You can actually go to Saturday, Sundays are the worst, like, if you go anywhere to big bazaar or this thing, there are long queues. So such a innovative thinking, like, understanding the customer, right? Their convenience, right? Their what are their attributes, right? And right, so we have definitely capturing the customer as a in center, and you can we can bring this innovations. The most important thing is, like, the technology behind it. I have told you, like, in the ceiling of this Amazon Go retail shops, there are a lot many sensors, they are very well connected, right? So that's where, other supply chain activities get triggered. The moment customer has bought something, it can immediately be linked with the manufacturer, distributors, or wholesalers, like, this product has been now taken away, we need to replenish. So they are all automatic replenishments which are happening. So that's where, it lies in the domain of supply chain, right? So keeping the customer convenience in mind, and driving all the supply chain activities, right? So moving forward, this is the small framework, right? Which I believe, like, what can help us, uh, in understanding, in exploring, technologies, like, everybody talks about analytics, right? That can be a very good input to the supply chain domain. This domain is very important, right? So for the domain, I have taken SCORE model, very famous SCORE model, which divides supply chain processes into plan, source, make, deliver, return. Our planning involves all forecasting, right? Forecasting of everything, not only demand, forecasting of what to produce, how much to produce, forecasting on how much material I might need from my supplier, forecasting on, how the supply prices might change. We always think that, forecasting, predictive analytics are only needed for customer. No, it's not that. If you will really look at your company, or look at any company, they really need very good planning, and they need predictive analytics. That means they want to forecast on many aspects, right? Then comes source, my supplier management, how many, why those supplier, what to buy, when to buy, right? And then our production decision comes, make, deliver, right? Delivery has, transformed a lot during COVID, right? And return, as I've told you, like, keeping sustainability in mind, we have to be environmental conscious, right? Many countries have even, told the companies, like, you first think of, like, your return products, you first think of, where your product will go, right, after the end of life cycle of your product. Keeping that in mind, you introduce new products, right? So this is very important. So if, in this supply chain domains, if we can use analytics, if we can use technology can be anything. It can be digital technology, it can be any hardware technology, engineering technologies, right? So any technology management, the idea is like, as I've told you, right, not only cost and efficiency, but this four very important uh, pillars, right? So visibility, digitization in one sense can support and facilitate supply chain, but digitization can also help us in introducing innovative products for supply chain, right? That we will see down the line, right? So if one has to really categorize disruptive technologies, like I feel we can actually put them in different buckets. There can be more buckets also, right? This is another topic of research. One can really see when it comes to supply chain, how we can categorize various technologies, right? So one way is can we categorize technology as per the domain, right? It has its own challenges because if we see domains, they are also interrelated. Sometimes one technology serve all the domains, subdomains, right? Or it can be like, based on the usage, maybe customer focused, supplier focused, right? So this is one way, one aspect of doing research, like, how we can categorize, disruptive technologies in supply chain. Well, I have, put under this three buckets. We can certainly use technologies for one can be automation of routine and repetitive work. This is the low hanging fruit, right? So in our day-to-day life, we can easily identify which are the activities, which are routine kind of, which have a repetitive nature, right? Can I include technology there, right? So this is automation of routine, this thing. Another set can be digital transformation, right? Where, I can use technologies to make intelligent decision, maybe one step further, not only repetitive, where, some decision making is involved. It can be machine to machine communication, right? It can be like, tracing and tracking of, supply chain entities, right? Usage of artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? So it can be, those technologies, or it can be typical, uh, technological transformation, right? Which are more of engineering and hardware instrumentation related technological transformation, like 3D printing, drones, using sensors, right? No doubt, all these three categories, they work hand in hand, right? But, if we can categorize these technologies, it helps us in, correct implementation, right? So like, what is the purpose? What, for example, if it is repetitive, my purpose should be like, am I able to achieve efficiency, right? Have I reduced my paperwork? Have I reduced my errors, right? So, the intention behind adopting that technology would be different, right? Again, this is another research area, where one can pick, ultimately what supply chain performance indicator I would achieve by using different kind of technologies. Focusing on that, if you categorize technologies, it would really help in implementation of technologies, right? Digital transformation, like, that if I want to make some intelligent decisions, I have 100 of parameters, 100 of factors, like, where manual intervention is next to impossible. Can I utilize that, right? Technological transformation, like, more of ease, right? Can I, like, my labor is doing lot of manual effort, can I reduce that, right? Can I reduce my complete supply chain entities, like, can I get away from logistics, can I get away from, complex manufacturing processes, right? So with this thinking, one can look for, introducing and linking technologies with supply chain, right? For example, robotic process automation. I'll just give one example, like, how one can, think of introducing good research area, right? Again, if I would take SCORE model of like plan activity, right? So I can have, RPA, robotic process automation for supply and demand planning, right? Which should be error free and organize data input to AI or ML, right? So definitely RPA is not, robotic process automation is not capable of doing decision making, but it can be a very good input, clean input, error free input to my next level of technologies. For sourcing, like, how can I manage quotations, right? I can compare bids, like I can generate purchase orders, I can handle email transactions, I can handle payments, right? So this is must, for all the organizations these days, right? So this is for manufacturing, I should go for inventory monitoring, automatic reordering, right? So we all have heard of some term called vendor managed inventory, right? So while I'm producing something, if I am a manufacturer, my whole effort should be only on manufacturing. I should not be bothered about when to place an order, whether product has reached or not, right? So to get away all this, inefficient processes, can I have some automatic, right? Like vendor managed inventory. I have installed sensors which would sense the inventory availability. They would monitor inventory. They can automatically, tell the vendor, okay, now this is the order size, this is the order level, you just now replenish it. Okay, so and deliver information retrieval to transportation management system, shipment scheduling, tracking and update shipments, right? Mind it, we are talking about only the automation, right? We are not talking about advanced decision making technologies, right? So here, our focus should be on efficiency, customer satisfaction, error free inventory counting, exception handling, right? If something goes wrong, if something is not as per schedule, it can actually ping the exception and exigency, right? So this is like, one example. Similarly, can I build frameworks, for other technologies, which is very difficult, right? Because the advanced technologies, especially in India, where we are very, very slow in implementing, right? And I won't say that we have not implemented, there are no cases. We have implemented, but the implementation, the scaling up is very, very slow, right? But as a good research effort, can I come up with such kind of framework where I can link up with the with supply chain domain, right? What activity in that domain and how it is impacting my performance, right? Then only, we can realize the right technology, right? Then only we will justify, is it really disruptive or not, right? So such frameworks are really important. I don't see such frameworks are lacking, right? So for example, here there is a company called Maruti Tech, so they have given this RPA, right? So what activities are there? Now we don't need to develop all that. We have, vendors available, but we just need to know, like for what purpose I need, right? And whether I would be able to achieve my supply chain efficiency or, customer satisfaction, right? So that is where, one has to take, that capability, acquire that capability, right? Next comes, artificial intelligence. I will try to take three examples from all those three categories which we have discussed, right? And we'll try to see, like, how we can come up with some good supply chain technology frameworks, right, in India, right? So we all know artificial intelligence is nothing but it is system's ability to interpret external data, right, correctly, to learn from such data and to use those learnings to achieve specific goals, right, and task through flexible adaptation. So machine learning is a very good example. Machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, This is the extensively used application so far in artificial intelligence domain, right? So when we say machine learning, we all know this can analyze patterns in data. Models are trained on given input data, adapting and improving towards new data, right? So how this can give competitive advantage, right? So that is where, I should be looking for. I know AI can do many things, right? But from supply chain perspective, I would be using, this part of artificial intelligence only, right? If I would be able to manage my inventory better, right? I will be able to plan more reliable transportation networks and reduce variability in lead times, enhance service level, lower cost, and improve the bottom line. In supply chain, there is always a dilemma. If I want to achieve responsiveness, if I want to satisfy my customer, it always comes with the cost, right? Or vice versa. If I want to focus on my cost, then I should not worry about the responsiveness, right? This is a typical dilemma of supply chain, right? But these days, we have bridged, this gap, right? So achieving high service levels while minimizing inventory stocks, is possible in this era now, right? For example, Nestle has to manage more than 10,000 stock keeping units, SKUs, different items, right? So just imagine for an organization, these many items, they flow day in, day out, right? So many items need, if one item we have to produce for that, there would be hundreds of supply ingredients, parts and components, right? And they are delivered once or twice in a day, right? So managing so many of transactions, right? And tracing them, that's a big challenge, right? Keeping all these inventories available so that, production can be smooth, that's a big challenge, right? But Nestle has managed, right, to maintain high service levels, right? High service levels, like earlier was a thought that, high service levels can be only achieved when we have, a lot of inventory available, right? Definitely, if I'm able to provide inventory, from available inventory, I would be able to win over the customers, right? This has been, thinking, but now it is changing, right? Because technology is, uh, getting obsolete very fast, right? The mobile handset which you would buy today, it would become obsolete in another months, right? So keeping inventory can be a very, very risky affair, right? So but at the same time, I have to maintain my service levels. So this is where, demand planning solution to improve forecast accuracy, capturing all the factors including demand volatility, seasonal, promotional marketing campaigns, right? So Nestle has been, able to achieve this thing by using proper AI based algorithms, right? So this is how, I should focus on, like, while whenever I have to choose my technology, right? So my focus should be here. This is my challenge, right? Whether this is able to provide some help here, right? Then only I would be saying that, this is a good supply chain technology, right? These days, actually, you don't need to do coding, right? So for example, this Microsoft's products are there, you can, they are also coming in a modular perspective, right? So we just need to plug in, but only thing is, like, one has to be very clear, like, what is my objective, my goal, and whether the tool, the model is capable of capturing these factors, because these factors are nothing but these factors are coming from different sources, right? So one other example I would say is a cognitive sourcing, right? We have entered into this supply chain era where, if I am a manufacturer, if I am a resilient manufacturer, right? One of the today's goal is to become resilient. If I am a resilient manufacturer, I should be, like, monitoring my supplier location regardless where the supplier is located over the globe. Correct. So the intelligent decisions, which companies are making now, they are monitoring not only the supplier's activity, but they are monitoring what are the weather conditions of, suppliers, how is the political, conditions of that country where my supplier is located, right? Complete supply market intelligence, right? Whether some new innovation is going to come somewhere in the world, right? All those things are very important in supply chain, right? So that's where real time data capturing, that's where my AI and machine learning algorithm will become handy, right? For example, supply market intelligence, how my supply prices are changing, right? So that all needs very good algorithms, right? For example, I'll tell you one of the research initiative we have taken up is how to forecast the steel prices. Currently, manufacturing industry in India, they are struggling, how to predict steel prices, because they are varying, there are a lot of variation which they are facing, right? And that especially the auto vehicle companies, they have to commit to the customers the cars at certain price, right? They cannot give excuse that the raw material prices are fluctuating a lot, and hence so most of these car companies, they go for target pricing. They first fix price and then they start their R&D. But but this but they are struggling to capture the supply markets, right? So the prices are changing, availability is an issue, the risks are involved, right? So that's where this AI and this thing will be used. So one of my student, he is exploring machine learning based algorithm where we can capture the data from different sourcing. For example, I'll give you just one factor for like to predict steel prices. We have found the oil prices, oil availability, oil prices are very much dependent on that, right? So from which index to capture that data and then plug in that data to forecast the steel prices. So that now, why as a supply chain we are interested? Because if I know my price, if I can forecast, if I can predict whether the price will shoot up or price will come down, I can make my operational decision, I can make my order quantity decisions accordingly, right? Whether I should delay my ordering, or whether the price is good, I should place an order immediately, right? My inventory policies will become dependent on that, right? So such technologies are very, very useful, right? This is a use case which I'm giving you. So we are trying to see whether we can apply machine learning based algorithm, right, in forecasting steel prices, and then we will investigate how my ordering decision should depend on that information, right? So in logistics also, like we need to collect data on weather, real-time congestion scheduling, typically like our GPS, right? When we go, right? So whenever we are planning to go somewhere, we switch on GPS, which gives us congestion and all. Now just imagine the people who are the shippers who have to track their thousands and thousands of vehicles, trucks, standing on the port, waiting for the clearance at different ports, like how they have to use such information, real time basis information, tracking, tracing the product. So that's where this AI and ML algorithms, like they become handy, right? So we all know the current case of this ever green that vessel which has obstructed many other ships or other vessels to go, right? And right, if and you can see in India news was there that they immediately, what they do, they plan for rerouting the other vessels, right? So how dynamically quickly we can react to rerouting over this thing, right? So DHL has been very successful in using predicting time delays in air freight lanes using hundred of different parameters and analyze the expected reasons for delay. So these are nothing but, though they are use cases, but they are really, they are themselves a good research problems, right? Like, whether this algorithm is capable of capturing this factor and will it improve my forecast accuracy, right? And what kind of delays I can expect, right? So this complete study, how it will be useful for supply chains, right? Risk assessment is another one, right? Easy to come data from social media, satellite images online, publications. We have, done one more project, right, where in agriculture domain, right? So where, we have captured satellite data, to identify, which crop has been grown at any current point to a particular area, right? If we can assess that, we can easily predict, like, what would be the what would be the crop, what would be the product, which will be there in the market at what time, like, when harvesting will done. So we have, after gathering that data, we have developed another machine learning based algorithm where, the algorithm can monitor the progress, monitor the growth of the crop, right? And, which would help us, to predict, like, when harvesting will done. And we can also predict the yield, right? Based on the growth, we can predict the yield. And that is a very good forecast, for example, these days, contract farming is in picture. Organized companies are coming forward to buy directly from farmers. They can capitalize on, all these machine learning algorithms, right, where you can assess the risk also. Like, many times companies provide loans to the farmer, or sometimes some cooperative banks, they provide loans to the farmers. If you can monitor the growth, it would really reduce the risk of the loans and, loans returns. So this is what, we have been doing with a few of our research scholars, like, how to use it, right? Helps in monitoring and proactive management of supply chain issues. So bring resiliency, right? So if I know that, the crop growth is not good, it will help me, like, I should restrict on, loans giving, right? And how I should prepare, right? I should know that, the good production would not come on time. So should I start looking for another sources, right? Rather than relying on this particular source where I can predict, yield is not going to be the same which I have expected, I can immediately start looking for other sources, right? That's resilience. Like, how I know this risk will happen, but how quickly, proactively I will start looking for another source resources so that my production should not stop. These are few examples, like, where we can utilize technologies. Industry 4 is another technology where I can have smart product, right? Smart machine, right? Again, augmented operator. So all, the product should be equipped with, whenever I'm producing the product should be capable of, like, storing data, so that it should be ready to talk, right? To interact. It become, smart machine, like machine to machine, cognitive computive technology, so that intelligent decisions can be made. At the same time, it should be augmented operator, technological support to worker, right? So the worker has become, like, empowered now. The worker can, work flexibility with flexibility, modularity, like, so now the manufacturing is like, manufacturing works like, Legos, right? Already the main components are already ready. So all these things have, empowered the shop floor people, the employees, to work flexibly. So this is the paradigms of industry 4, right? Drones is a very wonderful example, right? So drones in supply chain, this is the third category of disruptive technology which I have shown, where which are like, real hardware engineering technologies, like, using instrumentation, right? Fast and autonomous delivery, reducing the steps of supply chain, right? So the applications are everywhere, right? Agriculture, medicine, e-commerce, right? Logistics industry, monitoring and searching and tracking. That's like when we say logistics, like, just look at our seaports, like, how they are congested, right? So we really need some mechanism to monitor them, right? In healthcare, organ donations, key medication, blood plasma, platelets, vaccines, just bypass the traffic congestions, right? There are dilemmas about, usage, permission given to this, but given that, there are many advantages, like agriculture, crop growth monitoring, early disease detection, right? So such kind of technologies in supply chain are very important, right? So for example, here, we all know this the Amazon, 30 minutes, how, right, Jeff Bezos have already seen, they, visualized, the need of drones. So this example is...
Canberra is the only place in the world where this is happening. Drone delivery has been a dream for years, but in Australia's capital, the future's become a reality. That drone's on a mission. In its grasp is a package containing a hot coffee, and on its GPS is an address of an undercaffeinated customer.
Look, I'm surprised that it's possible. To be frank, it's bloody ridiculous that you can order a coffee and have it in 3 minutes.
In Bonython, a suburb of Australia's capital, Canberra, Alphabet's Wing is conducting one of the most advanced drone delivery tests yet.
I hope that we're able to build, test, and show a service that both makes roads safer by taking vehicles off of the roads and also reduces emissions.
Tech companies worldwide have been interested in the idea of drone delivery for years now. Amazon did its first drop in 2016 in rural England. Chinese online retailer JD.com has delivered packages in rural China. But Wing's 25 drones in Canberra are pushing into new territory, delivering.
So we have already seen, this drones is not new, this thing, but, from supply chain point of view, what is important here is, like, the type of product. I think delivering, hot coffee is the major challenge, I think in India also it is not very successful unless, it would be delivered in, the steel kettles or, insulated flasks, right? And that too, like with the drones, and that too 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes is what, like in today's supply chain, if you see the recent newspapers, like, every company is striving and competing, to deliver same day, deliver in 15 minutes. Like the 15 minutes delivery is the new challenge in the supply chain, right, these days. So 15 minutes, like, but in this drones, in this example, they are targeting 3 minutes, right? See, this is something like, definitely, I'm not sure, like, given the law of land and all, whether it would be applicable or not. But, the thing is, technology is there, right? Especially during the COVID times, we have seen when we were just running out of the stock, right? And I feel like drones could have been a very good solution, right? We have already been trying, many models like hyper local. Our kirana stores only become big partners of big e-commerce companies, and they are delivering, right? So we really need to test, many kind of
On 60 Minutes, we've got a rare look at the way Amazon does business. The world's largest online company tells us how it delivers to 225 million customers around the world. Founder and CEO Jeff Bezos is taking the company's need for speed to new heights. During our visit to Amazon's campus in Seattle, Bezos kept telling us that he did have a big surprise, something he wanted to unveil for the first time.
Let me show you something.
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
These are octocopters.
Yeah.
These are effectively drones, but there's no reason that they can't be used as delivery vehicles. Take a look up here so I can show you how it works.
All right. We're talking about delivery here.
We're talking about delivery. So there's an item going into the vehicle. I know this looks like science fiction. It's not.
Wow.
This is early. This is still years away. Drops the package.
There's the package.
You come and get your package, and we can do half-hour delivery.
Half-hour delivery.
Half-hour delivery, and we can carry objects we think up to 5 pounds, which covers 86% of the items that we.
So, this was a prediction in 2013, and, then Google was able to do Project Wing, Here he has targeted half an hour. However, this Project Wing, Google, they were claiming to deliver coffee in 3 minutes, right? So this is like, what, typical operations and supply chain targets have to be kept in mind, right? So there's a question, how prepared is our country in terms of all these technological developments, right? I think, India has been doing, especially when we call, say, in IIT or many other engineering institutes, right? Our students have been like, preparing to drones. It's always there. I think from technological preparedness, like, India is it's only the legal and, the law, which I'm sure will down the line it will come, right? Because the applications of drones are not limited to this delivery of products to the customer, but in healthcare, there are many this thing advantages, like, especially country like India, where ambulances cannot reach on time, and even if they can reach on time, sometimes the congestion and, the road widths are too small, ambulances cannot enter, right? The first aid can be really provided, by using drones, right? There are many applications worldwide that, how by installing images and the first aid kit, which is actually required for, life-threatening cases, the people near the patient, who has needs, immediate attention, they really can get help from these drones. So the application wise, everybody knows they are very good. So in my opinion, like, for the small distance deliveries, right, this can come out to be a very good good tool, right? For and, like, for elderly people who cannot move out, to buy things, for them, such kind of delivery mechanisms in supply chains are really boon. So yeah, that's what legal and law, which has to be really come, in India. Otherwise, from technology point of view, I think we are far ahead, right? So recently I was looking at, logistics performance index, World Bank always assess, supply chain on logistics performance index. There are 6 parameters like customer clearance, easy to do business, tracking and tracing, logistics quality, service, right? We are ranked around 54 this year, or 44, right? The last assessment, right? The other aspects we have not been doing good, but tracking and tracing, we have got scored very well, right? So that means from the technology readiness, India is at very good place. Only thing is the implementation and the right implementation, because these are the products, right? And to implement that product, the users, like, they have to really assess whether they are cost effective, right? Whether they align with, their current technologies, right? Or how to upgrade them, the interoperability issues, right? Those are the only issues which needs to be addressed.
60 minutes.
Right. So next is equally important is 3D printing. Again, it is a kind of very hardware this thing. So we all know what is 3D printing, isn't it, right? So where, rather than producing from metals, components, right, we are actually, doing layer by layer using the raw material, right? So we all know 3D printing, but it is very difficult to visualize and link it with the supply chain, right? Let's see that. I think, yeah, this figure was given by one of my internship student. He's still working on like optimizing, the 3D printing application and supply chain, right? So ordinary manufacturing is called subtractive manufacturing, right? This is how we get the whole material in form of some components and this thing, right? Then we do some operation, milling, grinding, and everything to make this object. However, in additive manufacturing, we just get the raw material and we just prepare layer by layer to make this object. So you can see what kind of wastage is there, right? Now, this is the first aspect. When I say sustainability is what everybody want to view as one of the performance indicator of supply chain. So this is how, we are improving, like, the wastage has come down, right? So what else? Like, creating and producing products on demand and at the point of demand, right? So if I have to produce the product, in typical supply chain, we produce the product at one location, let's say manufacturing facility, or maybe if it is a component, let's say tier one supplier is manufacturing, sending to original equipment manufacturer, then their immediate buyer, right? And then it has to go to different places. So why not wherever demand has originated, like if manufacturer wants to make it, rather than ordering from the tier one supplier, why not I make it? Definitely, if I need to make very small number of units, right, and in small quantity, right, definitely there. So it really leads to shorter and leaner supply chain, right? If I can produce, that small quantities, less number of units at my own premises, like it completely, you can just get away many supply chain entities in the whole supply chain. The length of supply chain can come down, right? So and if length of supply chain would come down, this process leads to less waste, right? We would certainly reduce the waste and the carbon footprint, right? That's what we have been saying. Like, our intention is, again, to look at our supply chain performance indicators, right? Cutting back on warehousing cost, right? We don't need to construct warehouses. We don't need to store the products. We can just manufacture whenever it is required, right? Speeding up turnaround by quickly and cheaply producing replacement, right? Meeting customer demands for the swift delivery of personalized product. Customization can also happen, right? So many companies like manufacturers like Boeing, right? They have found that they can manufacture a single part on demand on the factory floor more economically than they can purchase and warehouse minimum. So if you click on this page, you can read on this page, the whole details of Boeing, how they have been benefited out of this one, right? So SpaceX is another company which has used 3D printing to build the emergency escape rockets on its new manned Dragon spacecraft. So basically, like, even NASA is now planning, to have 3D printer, in the space station, because they cannot stock up inventory there, right? Inventory of finished products. So that's, where supply chain application comes, right? Lesser the inventory, better it would be. Lesser the waste, it is environmental friendly. The shorter the supply chain, I would get my material quickly, right? It would save my warehousing costs, right? That is the impact of, this technology in the supply chain. No doubt, production and manufacturing, that aspects have to be looked at. But from the supply chain perspective, what we can see, what are the benefits coming out of this technology, right? So you see here how
3D printing has built up a little niche market, but the plastics that come out of a desktop printer are no good for heavy-duty industrial use. For commercial flight or commercial space flight, you need something that stands up to more abuse. So companies are turning to metal instead of plastics. They get the speed and detail of 3D printing and none of the waste from carving parts out of blocks of solid metal. The layer-by-layer process is similar to desktop printers, but these industrial machines use high-energy lasers to fix each layer of metal into place. One General Electric rep described it as exactly like welding, but on a microscopic scale. NASA is testing laser-printed metal parts that could one day work their way into rockets for Mars missions. And SpaceX is building entire engines this way. Its Super Draco engines for the Dragon capsule come out of a metal printer. All this advanced tech comes with an advanced price tag, though, and is probably well beyond hobbyist territory. Printers like the one SpaceX uses can run close to $1 million.
Yes. So, again, right, 3D printing is very common,
3D print,
but linking it with, the supply chain, to quantify what is the real application benefits, of that, what are the difficulties, what are the right conditions, what are the right industries, what are the right companies, at which stage of supply chain. So all those are very open-ended research questions, which needs to be addressed, right? So these are very good research questions, some of the researchers here can pick as a research point, right? Research area, right? So next is blockchain. So here, blockchain also is another potential. Yes. Is there any question?
இது போட 115 பேர் இருக்க மாட்டான்.
Hello. Is there any question here?
Someone has unmuted by mistake. You can continue.
Okay. Thank you. So the another technology, like, we say blockchain, right? So blockchain is more famous, for the cryptocurrency and in the financial aspects, right? But when it comes to supply chain, we can see there can be number of benefits of blockchain, right? So in the in the first slide of supply chain, where I have mentioned, like, the companies, the entities in supply chain are little reluctant, to align their goals, objectives with the other supply chain. The main issue is, like, lack of incentives. And another is, like, there is always a fear, like, whether I should share this information. This might be proprietary information. The other entity might use it against my competitor. So all those issues, like, they are inhibiting, the success of supply chains here, right? So there, this to address those kind of issues, blockchains can be a very good tool for supply chain applications as well, other than, financial aspects of like cryptocurrency and all, right? By the way, I have least knowledge about, like, how it can be linked in cryptocurrency, but in our research right now, we are doing a research on food supply chain, right? Food has become, very important aspect, right? In customers, we all are becoming aware, right? But we want to, like, customer is becoming aware, and they want to explore, right, from where, what is the origin of food, right? Like, IBM has done very good research on blockchain applications, like, in advanced countries, developed nations, they have reached to that level of success in implementing blockchain, that, even the apple which you buy from some of the retail stores in US or in Australia, like, you can actually trace them, like, from which gardens and which tree, that apple has come from, right? So this kind of traceability, trackability is very, very important, and it is possible through this technology called blockchain, which is a distributed, decentralized ledger, a digital system for, recording transactions among multiple parties in verifiable, tamper-proof way. See, its definition itself is saying this is well suited for supply chain, because supply chain entities are decentralized. They are not governed by single organization, right? They are distributed ledgers. So every company, every supply chain entity is preparing their own ledgers. Like, but then how, we can verify, and in a tamper-proof manner, they can share information, right? Because it is a tamper-proof information, right? if this will be implemented in supply chain entities can trust each other on this information, right? So this is enables faster and most cost efficient delivery of products, enhancing. So because in this products you can embed some kind of smart contracts, you can embed many kind of RFIDs tags, for giving automatic payments, right? So all these things enables blockchain. So we all know this characteristics of blockchain. This is distributed peer-to-peer transmission, but in a pseudonymity is kept intact, so only the entities can see. But for entities, this is transparent, irreversibility of records. Nobody can tamper, nobody can change the record. If somebody would change the record, it will create another block. So that means you can view all the blocks like possible. And transactions can be tied to computational logic and programs. So you can embed intelligent decision-making things here, right? For example, execution errors would come down. Manual edits can be, overcome, right? Because all information in all blocks is visible, transparent to all supply chain entities at all the times, right? Manual edits would come down, the blocks themselves will give all the information, and many conflicting issues will come down, right? So you can trace this one. So there is one good example here. uh, yeah, here, see here, traceability. Just try to read this one. That would gives the crux of the application, right? It combines unit level identification, infinitely scalable system of supply chain visibility. It provides certainty on the exact source of every ingredient in every jar, in every case, on every shelf at all times. Like if we are talking about some juice company, like because supply chain steps as minute as dumping a single bushel of apples into a juice press or removing the solids in strainer can be cost effectively recorded. Combined with state data on things like temperature, motion, or chemical composition collected from sensors on equipment, right? Then see if suppose you and me as customer, we would be having access to this data, and this data is real because we can see the time stamping, right? We can see the location where this recording has happened. Like we can trace each and every activity which has gone into the final product, right? That would develop the trust among supply chain entities as well as the customers and users, right? That's where blockchain activities comes, right? So provenance, we want to know the origin of the product. Even for manufacturing these days, the manufacturers wants to know the origin of oats. Like a very interesting example is now companies are becoming more socially sustainable. They want to know that the origin from where the products are mined, right? From the mining is happening, no unethical practices are happening, no child labor are involved, no smuggling is happening, right? So for that, the blockchains are also very important. They have, good applications, right? Supply chain visibility monitoring, right? Faster delivery, cost efficient. So these are the characteristics of blockchain, which would help to achieve supply chain goals, right? Improving trust, aiding access to financing, improving coordination among supply chain partners. So this is what, right? So these are the benefits and attachments which can come with the blockchain to give more advantages to the supply chain. So in the food, currently we are doing research on how we can quantify the traceability, the visibility. Can we quantify visibility? How many blocks are optimal, like which would help us in achieving traceability versus cost, right? Whether if cost is too much, what is the right threshold, like? So this is one of our research project which we are doing here, right? Why it is important, there are example like more frequent and severe food recalls happen, right? If blockchain is in place, this all recall costs would come down. See here, you can see this average recall cost is $10 million in the direct costs alone, right, in the food area. So blockchain platforms developed by De Beers, like for the diamond cutters and all, they want to know the source of, those important, pearls, metals, right? So this is another example. This is probably the last video in the supply chain, the application of blockchain. You see.
It's a very exciting revolution, I think, that's about to hit the industry, because that amount of transparency will reduce illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing practices. It can help to improve the sustainability and the profitability of the industry, but also remove some of the human rights abuses that have happened in the tuna industry.
Yeah. So New Zealand and countries like New Zealand and Australia, they are capitalizing on blockchain. See here, the goal is like, to address unethical issues, right? Or inhuman issues like in supply chain. Again, this is, because to capture our social sustainability aspect, right? The triple bottom expectation of supply chain. And certainly, like, as I've already mentioned, like, and we want to become a resilient supply chain where we know the risk is there, but how can I achieve zero trauma? It should not impact me as an organization, right? How this can be done, right? So digital transformation to manage risk and become resilient in supply chain is really, really important, right? So in pandemic, current pandemic, we have seen the risk from upstream supply, which was disturbed due to unavailability of human operators, right? And I came to know near the end of first wave itself, like many parts of Maharashtra, they just ran out of basic grocery also, right? That was a really, really disturbing situation. Even the downstream demand has become really unpredictable. Like, at one place there is a stockpiling, like, because of the hoarding, some of the places have too much of, stock, whereas other was not having any stock. So the supply and demand risks, which just come like that, there we really need very good transformations, like, how FMCG, they quickly, became resilient. They quickly moved to e-commerce channels, like, when I remember during the first wave of pandemic, when all the companies were thinking like, when we will be able to overcome the losses, companies like Parle-G, they were planning to open up more facilities, because the demand was huge, and they capitalize on e-commerce. They quickly shift to the retails, physical retail supply chain mode to e-commerce mode, and they were able to, the utility was they were able to forecast more accurately. So that time those companies were making decision where to open more factories, how to open. So that was the decision, right? So just imagine, nobody can think of a company thinking of the growth of a company when mostly other sectors were facing issue of surviving their business, right? So hospital material disruptions have happened, right? So many innovations have come up, like uh, our own Arogya Setu, right? That is a very good application of this transformation. Centralization of inventory could have been a very good option, where many countries have done that, like of all the important material like PPE or other important medicines, right? And contract tracing apps, like that are the very good digital transformations in humanitarian supply chains, we would say, right? And one more good Indian example is our fast tag, FASTag has done wonders. Like, we have reduced the queues, right? And not only queues, it is really boon to logistics industry, right? Like, just imagine, the line and the queue of trucks lying on the at all tolls. Like, now it's not only the reduction of time, like, fast delivery, it is also reduction of, fuel wastage. A lot of, fuel consumption has come down, and, it has the environment is also good now, thanks to the fast tech kind of initiatives. So some initiatives are there around us also, right? But many more to go. So these are very promising technologies, like, which can, be further researched on, right? Some of the way forward I have already told in most of the technologies, like for AI and 3D printing, one has to really see how they can improve their predictive analytics, right? In 3D printing, what are the scaling options? What are the how we can quantify the benefits in the supply chain? Blockchains are still in the evolution stage. Still companies are thinking whether they are really worth investing in supply chain, because cost versus scalability, right? Evolving measures to quantify visibility, like when we say recall cost, like, so it's all those are, like, very good research areas, to move on. So this is all about the some observations from my side on the utility of supply chain technologies, right? So we'd be happy to interact if you have any question.
Ma'am, there are some questions in the chat window, ma'am.
Yes. So most of them, and the last one is, how helpful are these technologies to the rural growth? Certainly, for example, the drones and all, especially in case of like, some natural disruptions when happen, right? Our drones can provide delivery to this to the remotest areas, to the rural group. That can be one, right? Another in agriculture sector, right? If we can come up with the applications, like, drones, which we have just seen that, right? If we can detect, some kind of, diseases on time, we can predict the yield. The companies would be assured that, the farmers are growing good crops. The farmers, we can expect this yield. Then, the farmers can directly get connected with the companies. They're definitely their business would be uplifted, right? Do share feedback link network issues in travel? Sorry, Uma, I didn't get this question.
No, ma'am, it's for the session's feedback. They're asking us, ma'am.
Okay, this question is for you. Okay, right. Yes. Yes. Any other?
Nasratulisa has asked, how prepared is our country in terms of all these technological developments?
Yeah. That's what I have responded the question. Like, technological developments are already there. There are many companies, like for 3D printing. There are many companies, 7, 8, topmost companies are preparing, this 3D related products, right? For even blockchain, blockchains for cryptocurrencies there for, and even I've heard, like, companies like Infosys, they have taken many government projects, like passport related projects, which are again supported by blockchains only. The financial applications are there, but in supply chain, it is yet to come. So technology is there, it is actually more of, like, implementation and adoption. The companies are not ready sometimes to adopt these technologies. So from the development point of view, technologies are there. As I've given very good example, like, we are doing very good in the logistics performance index of one attribute, that is tracking and tracing. That means in terms of technology, you say engineering technology or digital technology, we are doing very good. But only thing is the implementation part, the readiness part of the companies are still in dilemmas, and their dilemma is valid also, right? For example, we take, MSME sectors, micro, small, medium sectors, even if some technology which, they might expect can be promising, what is a guarantee? Like, tomorrow new technology will come, right? Whether they should go for that technology, or if, tomorrow new technology will come, how easy it would be, to upgrade to the new one. So those dilemmas are always there with the manufacturing sector, right? Yes, so development is there, only implementation, accepting those technologies, adopting those technologies are the issues. And that's where, the researchers can take up this kind of research problems, to address. Yes, any other question?
Yes.
May I come in?
Yeah, yes, sir. Venkatesh, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
Actually, I don't have a question at all, but I wanted to say something about Arshinder madam. So I'm a supply chain teacher over here. I teach supply chain.
Okay.
And whenever I talk about research in supply chain, if my students or somebody, they don't cite Arshinder, Kabra, Ramesh, and all these people, I say, sorry, you've not done your work.
Thank you, sir.
So even in my own papers, I have cited your name. I understand that supply chain, especially coordination and all these factors, if you don't cite some of these names, I think you're not done your literature review, or maybe you don't know the topic at all. So I just wanted to compliment your citations, 1100 plus. I really sometimes, I have envy. I'm sorry.
So we
So,
can
thank
always
you.
convert this envy to collaboration, sir. Always welcome.
Yeah, always neighbors envy, owners pride.
Thank you for your kind words, sir. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, there is one question, I think, from Uma. Is there a separate software for supply chain analytics? Yeah, so Uma, recently, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, somebody asked the same question. Is there any specific supply chain software? I would say, even if somebody would claim, it is very hard, right? Because supply chain itself is a very vast domain, right? Rather than supply chain software, just look at, what activity and what process of supply chain a person is saying, or a company is claiming, right? And whether it can solve that one, then only one can ensure that, yes, this software belongs to, like, let's say procurement, right? Or, this helps to improve logistics efficiency, right? Or it solves a transportation problem, because per se supply chain is a very, very vast area, right? And we cannot have, one standardized software in supply chain catering to all industry and all kind of supply chains.
Good afternoon, ma'am. It's good afternoon, Kavita, ma'am, and good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ritu, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The session doesn't end without Ritu ma'am's questions. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
It's a learning platform. I'm updating myself every day.
We welcome that, ma'am. We welcome that. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed, ma'am.
Ma'am, this is SCM is only for manufacturing or operations. It won't work in services sectors. Like if you take an example of automobile industry, and the automobile industry, basically it's a what you say, after sales services, right? So can we implement this technology in service sector also?
Yes, why not? That's what, my definition, if you see the first slide, rather than writing only manufacturing, I have written service product also.
I take one example, ma'am. If you have a car, right? So in that car, how this technology, if I want to get a repairing, denting, painting and all these things, how this will help us, this technology help us?
Yeah, so first of all, now the cars, like the cars are coming, like, with very high-tech features, right? your car will communicate to you, this is a time for you to get it service, right? Or, there are already sensors installed, all the high-end models these days. The sensors are installed where, just like your aeroplane, so the aeroplane is in a real-time environment, has been talking with the with the engine manufacturer of that flight, in a continuous manner. Similar thing will happen in the cars also, right? The sensors in the cars will tell the car providers or the car makers, right, that you have run this much of kilometers, it's time for you to get it serviced.
This is the
We
surface.
can also have an AI saying that how many services that happened, what was the problem, why this problem is repeating, and then you can find out which part is failing, and that information goes to the manufacturer and he corrects it, and so that it doesn't happen.
Venkat sir, what my thing is that we are thinking about the client part. I am talking about from the repairing or a service station part, right? Like example, Maruti authorized service station or some workshops are there. So how this technology will be helpful in operating the things? Because how they can reduce the costing? This is my question, ma'am.
Yeah, so there I see example of inventory management. If this people, the service people, if they are able to capture data, gather data, analyze data, you can easily manage your inventory. So basically, like all service centers, they are as good as, kind of, you can see they are kind of, sector which have to keep many spare parts, right? The major challenge to this kind of I won't say sector, this kind of companies is that how much inventory of particular spare parts they should keep, because when the repairs happen, they come with a lot of uncertainty. Like sometimes they would at the end of like 6 months, they might end up with having too much of a particular spare parts versus unavailability of some other components. This generally happens, like that's why sometimes customer move from one to one. So if you have a good technology to capture this data, good analytics to analyze, you can plan your inventory and you can plan your ordering decision. You can make that automatized, right? You don't need to if those things can be digitally included.
If you have a 1984 Maruti model,
too.
madam, if you have a 1984 Maruti model, you don't have a spares right now. But if you want a spare, have a 3D printer, print it and then put it. So you don't have to have a spare and you can use it. You can have an automatic car washing. So just leave the car there so that all those can be, the manpower can be reduced and you can use it for car washing.
Sir,
So in fact, many places it can be used.
My thing is, I myself have a Maruti dealership in Meerut. So I'm just concerning the madam is putting a part on the inventory costing, right? ABC analysis we can do and we can find out the running cost item, okay, running items. Okay, my concern is that, example, see, we have lot of logistic part. If we want to do a towing part, or we want to simply ask customers calls us and they want to do a repairing or denting or painting, can we minimize that supply chain management also, ma'am? Like example, I just make a call to my workshop. He come and he just do come and collect my car, and after that repairing parts going on, and after that he goes come back to my. I don't want this passage or moving my worker to go to that place, client, or the client or the car will come to my place itself. It's possible, like you said, a dome is there, and it has happened in service sector also.
I think it has already been there, right? So many companies are providing this service. They take your car, get it serviced, and they are giving back to you.
I don't want any middleman to be, because if the middleman is there, then what happened? They make a personal link with the customers. You understand my concern? So I want to eliminate that person from that chain. So it is possible I can do it through technology.
No, I don't know. See, there are two things, like so if you want to include your technology, to ease out, the service process of your car, like if the service person can come take your car, and then, get it repaired. So see, now all major companies have their own service center. You say Ford, you say Maruti, and they are providing the services, right? If it is only about, they may charge you more for every service, like a typical serviceman coming to your home to service AquaGuard and all. For every visit, they are charging something service. But I think this is available. You can, get the car, the service center. They can send the person to get the car, and then it will be delivered to your home. That is possible. It's going on.
Arshinder ma'am, may I contribute to your comments further?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm also a Maruti WagonR user, and for a long time I've been using. And as far as the service centers are concerned, I'm sure that they have whatever, she was asking, all the systems are already there in place. At least in Pune, I know that, there are many centers, and if anything happens, any center would have my data about my car. And idea is only to communicate with them about your problem, and they have all the resolutions. The nearest person would come visit on site, whatever you want. Only thing is, yes, you need to pay for everything. Then nothing is free.
Yeah. But it is actually combination of technologies like scheduling, typical scheduling like Practo we do to take appointments, like, how much.
They have everything actually. They have everything. They communicate, they send SMS, they contact, they do everything. And not only that, they also come up with calls, for insurance. They come up with calls for some other products.
Sir, my question is not there. This is, my question was something else. I want to eliminate the person who is going to take my car. Because the reason is that when you have a personal with your client, then they directly meet the clients. Okay.
No, but in this case, it's only me and the service company. There's no one else.
No. What happened? A person who owner cannot go now. You will send somebody else on your behalf. They will take and do it. But later on, when you analyze the thing day by day, what happened? A particular car won't come for your workshop. The reason behind it is going something out. I'm taking a genuine example. They are going to the local workshop because that person is giving the address of the local later on. So I want to eliminate that person, who eliminate the chain, direct link chain. I want to eliminate. Is it possible through technology or not? But this is my simple question, because what you are saying, it is happening from the last many years. From 1990 it was happening. But my question is that, can we eliminate this or not through technology? This is my question.
Right. So I have to first understand, what is, who is this third person in this supply chain you are talking?
See, ma'am, my simple question is this. I have a workshop and you are a client. Okay. You call a workshop and workshop has sent a person to your desktop. Okay. And I want to eliminate this person to go to your place. I want some technology. How can I eliminate this person?
No, but then how the car will go to the workshop?
So that, yes, sir. So that I want the thing which can can we use some technology?
You'll have to go yourself and pick the car and come.
So we have auto cars now. We have an auto cars. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, no. See, recently, they have said that, there is auto cars. Like, recently I was studying this article. How many accidents have happened in this auto car research also. It is also so far, the green chit or the clean chit has not been given to auto cars. It is not possible, right? What we can do is that here, definitely the car has to go to workshop somehow, so that if it can put on autopilot mode, it is difficult now. But what we can do is that the time can be saved, by using technology, right? For example, if, we can have some kind of robotics, which can diagnose the car at, the client's premises only, right? So which can anticipate, it might take 1 day, because generally what is happening, once the car goes, you send the car for problem 1, right? When it goes, while discussing, it leads to, there are 3 problems, which, the service person will tell, right? And by the time you go to receive your car, the 3 problems become 5 and 6, right? So if the total duration, the time, and those things I think can be reduced, by using some kind of robotics technologies which can sense, which can detect, basically diagnostics, like what else might have gone wrong, in those terms. Definitely some technologies can help, right? But autopilot mode is yet to, like, it is not even here. Even developed nations have not got clean chit so far.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is one more question we will take. May I know the green supply chain initiative in developing countries like India? Are our industries are prepared to implement it, right? So as such, there is no policy for supply chain per se, but there are green initiatives which are going on. Like we are talking about the cars, like our now policy is in place, like after how many years, like Delhi government has come up with a policy, like, after this many particular years, either you dispose of the car, or you pay some kind of tax, right? So, or prepare some kind of documents, right, for that. So those kind of initiatives are very good. And now the movement towards electric vehicles is another initiative, how, we can make it green. So in that terms, like whole transportation and logistics industry is also looking for example, in Chennai itself, Ashok Leyland is taking lead on making, electric heavy vehicles, like the trucks and all, which is a very big challenge for them. But I think they are on, this thing, like, this initiative. Those will definitely result in green supply chain, right? Any other question?
So if there are no more questions, then we can wind up the session. So participants, would you mind switching on your videos? We'll take a screenshot with Arshinder, ma'am.
Yes. So please share this screenshot, madam.
Yes, ma'am, sure. Suganti, are you taking?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Participants, shall we?
You have to on it because message is coming. You cannot start your video because host has dropped it.
Okay, I'm just taking it. Just please hold on. Just one more second. Let me take one more with some other participants because the window captures very few only. Just a moment, participants. Sorry, it takes time. Yes, thank you all.
Okay, so thank you all. So thank you, Arshinder ma'am, for that wonderful session on disruptive technologies, especially in the supply chain sector. And all our doubts were clarified by you very patiently. And as rightly said by Venkatesh sir, you are one among the best professors for supply chain management. So that's why we thought you are the right person to address our participants here today, especially the theme being disruptive technologies. So thank you once again, ma'am, on behalf of College of Management for sparing your valuable time with us today and for addressing about the emerging trends and technologies in supply chain sector. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much, for inviting it. It has been a great pleasure. Like, I enjoy the interaction and the question answer session more than, me delivering the lecture, So I enjoyed a lot, and thanks for asking the question. It witnesses that, the people were listening to the presentation, right? Just on the lighter side, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.